enjoy your lunch. This is very casual. I'm just going to chat about some things that I believe to be true about managing our lives. I love this title. I made it up, but getting it all done with grace and ease is what I think we're all about. We just don't want to wake up in the middle of the night with that, oh my God, I forgot that. Whether it's the laundry, whether it's milk, or whether it's a project that you didn't get finished. So I've put together some tips that I think might be helpful to you today. Grace and ease is important to me because what I want for all of us is to just be doing what we're best at most of the time. And when you're doing that, there is ease. I will turn 60 in 2 weeks. I know you're shocked. But what I have figured out at this point is I'm finally doing the things that I am best at. I spent a lot of years having a career that from the outside you would say was successful. But a lot of the work that I did was like trudging through mud because it wasn't my gifts and talents. And so until I got clear about what I'm good at and accept what I'm not good at and get somebody to do that part, I had a more challenging life or career than I could have had. So today I am a motivational speaker, a professional coach, and I do a lot of team building in organizations. But I want to take you back and tell you a quick story because I think you need to know me a little bit to trust me. So I grew up on the Mississippi Gulf Coast, and I went to the University of Southern Mississippi, and I read the book with all the courses in it, trying to figure out what I wanted to be when I grew up. And I settled in on speech communication. I liked the way the courses sounded. So I went home every Thanksgiving and Christmas, and my father took me into that living room. Y'all know the room where nobody sits unless you're getting in trouble? And he would say, what are you gonna be? What does a speech major do? Like, I don't understand this. And so I finally went to the head of my department and I said, Dr. Conville, what can I be with this? I have to tell my dad something. And so he went through a list of things like you could be a PR consultant, you could be a newscaster, none of that sounded very real to me. And then he said, you could work in a hotel and plan conferences for people. I said, that's what I want to do. That became my whole career goal. I didn't know anything about it, but I was pretty organized and I thought that might fit what I could do. And so I moved back to the Mississippi Gulf Coast, which if there was any tourism happening in 1981, it would have been on the coast. I went up and down Highway 90 to every hotel and gave them my pitch and my resume, and no one would hire me. Not a hotel, not a motel, not anybody. And so after about 6 weeks, I needed a job. And so I did what you did back then, which was Google of the 1980s. It was called an employment agency. And I went to an employment agency and I said, I need to get a job. And so they sent me on an interview to a bank to be the vice president's secretary and the student loan coordinator. I didn't know what either one of those jobs were, but I really needed this job. And so I met with a guy named Wayne Grant. Wayne was retired from the Pentagon, and he wasn't a friendly man. You know, in an interview, you just kind of want somebody to nod at you and tell you you're doing good. Wayne didn't do that. But he asked me a very important question. He said, Darienne, what's your WPM? Now, if you're under the age of 40, you probably don't even know what that is, but it means words per minute. All right, y'all. You remember that I needed a job. So I looked Wayne in the eye, I took a deep breath, and I said, 90. I had never touched a typewriter. I had never typed a term paper. I had never taken typing in school. And the truth was, I didn't know what would be a good answer. But I could tell that it was the only time that Wayne smiled. That maybe I had gone a little too high. See, my goal in life is to underpromise and overdeliver. Well, this was going to be hard to overdeliver. And so my mother's freaking out, and I bought a book on typing over the weekend, and I figured I would just teach myself and it would be fine. I won't bore you with the in-between, but it took about 3 weeks for Wayne to call me into his office. How many of y'all think he fired me? Should have fired me. That's a different question. Okay, you probably know that I wouldn't be telling this story if he'd really fired me, because what would be the point of that? So Wayne calls me in and he says, "This isn't going well." And I said, "I know, I'm trying my best." I said, "My God, yesterday I got 3 memos typed out of 5. Isn't that good? I mean, I did better than last week." He said, "This isn't going well." He said, "But this is what I'm going to do. I have signed you up at the community college to take typing. Can you get your butt to a class every Tuesday night for the next 9 weeks?" And I said, "Yes, sir." And so Wayne Grant taught me how to type. He also had to go to the board of directors of the Gulf Coast, whatever it was, the bank, and say that he hired a secretary that didn't know how to type. But the reason that I tell that story are two things. One is, you need to know before we start that I make stuff up. I mean, you can accept that and laugh, and you know what? I wish that I thought lying to Wayne was a bad thing, but look where it got me. I mean, it was okay. The second part of that is that we will all have an opportunity in our lives to be Wayne Grant to somebody. We will have an opportunity to see somebody who just needs a little help and a hand up. Instead of firing them, help them. So when I walked into the Natchez Eola Hotel about 1.5 years later, and the director of sales said, "Do you type?" I said, "I swear to God, I have a certificate. I'm 45 words a minute. I'm probably better now." And I got the job that was the dream job for me because I had the skill that I needed, because Wayne gave it to me. So so this is what I want you to kind of vote on. Do you think I'm a liar or a risk taker? Y'all are nice. I am both. I did lie, but I have in my career taken some risks, which you'll hear a little bit about today. So I work primarily with women. I do have some male clients. And everybody comes to me, y'all, for coaching for different reasons. So they're making a change. Their child just went to college and they're trying to figure this out. They know they're stuck in the job that they're in, but they have no idea how to get to the next step. Or they're looking at retirement and don't know they're scared to death about what that looks like. But at the core of it, it's all the same. How do I do this life thing better? I always say my clients are good and they think, "Gosh, I could be great. There's just this switch and I don't know which switch to push that would get me to great." And so I help them get there. And I've developed a process over the course of the last 4 years or so that I've been doing this work to help women find intentional action. So I just read this book about the difference in actions and activities. Actions are those things on your to-do list that will move you and your company forward. Activities is just the stuff. If I could take one word out of all of our vocabularies, it would be busy. Oh, I'm so busy. I'm just so busy. I'm crazy busy. Somehow that implies that I am successful and productive and okay, because other people must want to hire me. All it means is busy. And I can be working 3 days a week and maybe be just as successful and not have to say how busy I am to prove to you that I'm okay. So let's just quit saying it. Let's just do the work. So the process that I take clients through and companies is the same. The first step is clarity. This is the part we're fuzzy on. See, if we don't know what we want, nobody knows how to help us get it. Now, it's probably been 5 or 6 years ago, I hired a coach. I didn't even know what that was. It was so brand new. And this girl started asking me really serious questions like, what are your gifts? What lights you up? What are you best at? What do you really want in your life? And I giggled. I didn't have answers to any of those. I was just doing the next thing on the list. I was just trying to get to after dinner so I could watch Bachelor in Paradise. I mean, I just wanted to get through the day. And so I hadn't ever, while I worked for organizations and I understood the power of a vision, I didn't have one in my life. I heard a speaker say several years ago, we either have a desired future or a default future. Default means it just happens, right? Your mother says you're good at this, you ought to major in that. Some guy says you're cute, we should go on a date, and a few years later he says you want to get married. Well, yeah, that sounds good. And then you get a job, and then somebody says you'd be good at this, so you get the next job. So it defaults. And then there are some people that have a desired future. They know what they want. I wasn't one of those people. My whole goal in college was just to graduate. My whole goal when I got my first job was not to get fired. So I didn't have clarity around what I wanted 5 years ago when that lady asked me those questions. I didn't know what my gifts and talents were. I could not have told you. And so over the course of about a year and a half, we started to get really clear. I knew that I wanted to live by water. I knew I wanted to be connected in my community. I knew I wanted to do work that used my gifts and talents. And y'all, I live in a different city. I do different work. My husband's glad that I picked him to go with me. But I changed a whole lot because I got clear. So the clarity piece is one of the most important. The second piece is intuition. We all have this voice, this gut that's talking to us all the time, but we're too busy to hear it. And that voice is always leading you in the same direction. The third is priority, and that's about the time management part. That's about figuring out what your focus is today, what's most important, what do I need to get done? And we're going to spend a good bit of time on that because that's really what I was called in to talk about. And the last is truth. Most of us don't speak up in our lives. Mexican will be fine. I don't really want that, but it'll be fine. Yeah, I don't really want to go there, but yeah, it'll be good. I can take on that extra project. I can work Saturday. I can work the school bazaar and the church thing, and I can keep saying yes, yes, yes. Because when you say yes to something, you're saying no to something else, and it's usually you, right? You give up one of your activities or things with your family. So we're going to talk first about clarity. Oh, and let me say this this card is in your little orange packet. This card, there may be things that I mentioned today that you want a copy of that I provide, and you write it on this card. But you need to give me your name and email. It's in the orange. Do you not have one? I see somebody over there. You don't? Okay, I'll give you this one. This gets you on my mailing list. It lets you see the programs that I offer. But more importantly, you can say, send me the vision something or send me this. And I will email you and send you whatever you ask for. So while we're talking, I want you to know that that's available. Anybody not have one? There's one over here, right? I don't. Okay. Use mine because I've got it. Okay, there's one in there. Okay, so after decades of research into how the human brain works, scientists now know that for our brains to figure out how to get what we want, we have to decide what we want. Once we lock in our vision, our idea of what the next 2 to 3 years is going to look like, our minds can more easily step up. And I believe it's the universe, I think it's God, I think it's your mind. Step up to make your goals happen. And that's the clarity piece. And so I talk a lot about vision. It's the act or power of seeing. It is closing your eyes and giving up all of the, oh, I could never do that. Oh, I could never live there. Oh, I couldn't have that job. And taking all the blinders off and just sitting down and quietly saying on a Saturday afternoon, what do I really want? Not what my children want, not what my husband wants. What do I want more of in my life? Maybe it's friendships. Maybe it's peace. Maybe it's just some free time to go get a massage or see a movie by yourself. But what do I want more of in my life? So I do provide for free a list of thought starter questions that help somebody get to their vision. If anybody would like a copy of that just helps you start to think through, put that on that card and I will send it to you as soon as I get home. There are 2 ways to get to your vision. One is a statement where you write out in a journal, this is what I want. I like to do my visions for either 1 year or 3 years, depending on what I'm working on. I also do a vision board every year. Anybody have done one of those? You have? Okay, lots of people know about them. Go get a poster board. Go get a bunch of magazines. This is like your art project of the January season. And start pulling pictures that touch you and you don't know why. And then you start editing those pictures of this one or this one, this one or this one, and you start putting them on a poster board. And what it does is it takes you out of your head and into your heart. And that picture will start to come together in your life. So about 4 years ago, I had a picture of a woman on my vision board. And I can't say I really bought into the whole vision board thing. It seemed cool, but I don't know that I believed that I would be manifesting all of this stuff. But I had a picture of a lady in a rocking chair looking at water, reading a book. And I'd forgotten about it. And then about a year later, my husband and I walked into a townhouse in Ocean Springs, Mississippi, and I walked out the back door, and there was a rocking chair that the other people had, and it was looking at water, and I could see myself reading that book. We weren't looking for a townhouse. Now, you need to know about my husband, Dan. He reads Consumer Reports to buy a washing machine. I go in and buy the cutest color. That's kind of how we operate. So Dan doesn't move quickly, but for some reason he got this townhouse was the right place for us too, and within 2 hours we had put a contract on it and ended up moving there. So there is power in that vision board. I also share a document that walks you through the process of how to do a vision board if you would rather do it pictorially as opposed to just writing it. Intuition. Intuition is defined as an ability to understand or know something immediately based on how you feel. Have y'all had that voice that said, "Don't drink that third glass of wine"? I didn't always listen. I also, unfortunately, that had a voice that said, "Don't marry that guy." I didn't listen then either. But that voice is always telling you the truth. And most of us are too loud to hear it. And so I'm going to talk about, this is the game changer. If you talk to 10,000 leaders, the one thing they will tell you that changed for them in their life is quiet time. If you don't have some type of process for you where you shut down, no ringing, beeping, going, maybe if you have kids, maybe the only time you can do it is on your drive into work, but you turn off the radio. But you shut down and you don't try to fix anything. You don't try to think through a problem. You just breathe. I do this as many days as I can. I don't do it every day, but when I do it, I'm centered. You know, I feel steadier. I feel like I know what my focus is. So I ask myself 2 questions in my 5 minutes of quiet time. I say, what do I need today? Just what do I need? Not what everybody else needs. What do I need today? Because taking care of me is my top priority. And I don't feel guilty about that anymore. And the second piece is, what is my focus today? What is that big thing that if I get that done, that I'm not going to wake up in the middle of the night? We don't wake up in the middle of the night over milk or a phone call or making the appointment at the dentist. We wake up over something big and then we start going through the rest of the list. But if we got the big things done, you would live with more grace and ease in your lives. So I also believe in living out loud. I haven't done it a lot. Living out loud is doing those things that scare you. Y'all know what I'm talking about? I am insecure. I just am. I always have been. I have a little voice in me that says I'm not good enough. Now, at my age now, I can say, that isn't true. I'm okay. I'm not great, but I'm okay. But I'm not good enough. But it kept me from doing things that probably would have been living out loud moments for me. But I know the moments that I lived out loud changed where my life went. And I wish I'd had more of them. So one of those, probably didn't change my life, but it's a good story, is that when I was 17, I went to my mother and I told her I wanted to be in the Junior Miss pageant. Now you need to know, I had never been in a beauty pageant. No one had ever suggested it was a good idea. You can laugh. I was the drama club and the beta club and whatever, so this came as a surprise to my mother. And so as she's reading through the material, she's trying to find a nice way to ask me some questions about this without hurting my feelings. And she said, "Darienne, don't these girls have talent?" I said, "Yeah." And she said, oh, yeah, good, okay. So she looks back down and she's still reading. And then she looked up and she said, what is yours? Y'all, I didn't play the piano or sing, or I didn't do anything that would be counted as, a talent. And she didn't hurt my feelings. I said, oh, I've got it all figured out. I'm going to do a comedy routine. And she said, oh, even better. This just keeps getting better. So she let me be in the Junior Miss pageant. She paid the $150 and bought me a dress, and I went and did it. I didn't win Junior Miss. I was Miss Congeniality, and that was pretty cool. My parents sat on the back row and wore sunglasses. They were so scared that I was going to bomb, and they wanted to be the first ones out of the building as quickly as they could. But what's important about that for me and for your children when they want to do something that you believe, oh, I don't think they can do that, is that it was a huge moment for me. I did something that was so scary and so out there, and I did it. So that for me counts as a living out loud moment. So in 1999, I was running the Mississippi Tourism Association in Jackson, Mississippi, very happy in my life. And a friend of mine called, his name is Webster, and he said, close the door. We need to talk. And I did. And he said, we're going to elect a governor next year, and he's going to decide who's going to run tourism for our state. And that's just crazy. Why don't we have a candidate and go tell the governor who we want? I said, well, Webster, that's brilliant. Who would we get? And he said, you. I said, oh, I can't do that job. I mean, I'm not smart enough, big enough, good enough. I've never had a budget that big. I've never had that many staff people. And I said, the real issue, Webster, is people don't like the tourism director. Like if you promote Tupelo, the coast is mad at you. If you promote Natchez, Vicksburg's all upset. And Webster said the now famous line, he said, what rock do you live under? People don't like you now. Why would you think it's going to be different then? So I said, okay, well, I didn't know that. I guess it's okay then if people don't like you. And so I've told that story lots of times, and I always give Webster credit for getting me that job. Webster couldn't get me that job. What he did is open my mind up that it was a job that I could have. I made an appointment with the head of, he was the deputy director of economic development. The head of economic development was a new guy that was going to pick this position. So I went to see the deputy guy that I knew. And I said, Jay, I have somebody in mind to be the tourism director of the state. I wanted to bring that to you. And he said, oh, Darienne, we respect you. We'd love to know who you think should be the director. My mouth was dry. I said, pick me. I want you to pick me. And y'all, I hadn't practiced a follow-up line. And things kind of fell. There was a lull in the conversation, and I could tell that Jay didn't know what to say. I thought he didn't know how to let me down easy, and he didn't want to hurt my feelings. So I called Webster, and I said, I blew it. There's no way I'm going to get that job. And then 3 weeks later, the governor's office called and asked me to represent him and run tourism for the state of Mississippi. It changed the trajectory of my life because I did something really, really, really scary. That I had the guts to say, pick me. I didn't tell him that I lie some, so I'm a big fan of journaling. I'm a big fan of having a notebook by your bed or by your chair that you just jot things down in, particularly when you get through with your quiet time, because you're going to have answers to questions and you're going to have answers to problems. You're going to know a difficult conversation that you need to have. You're going to know what your next steps need to be. I think journaling is healing. It preserves memories. It sparks curiosity. And I think it gives you clarity. I've kept journals since I was like 21, 22 years old. I have this vision that my 27-year-old daughter is going to read every page of those when I pass away. How many of y'all think that's happening? No, it's not. But it's not for her. It's for me. And many people say you should journal believing no one will ever read it. Because if you filter what you're writing because of somebody else, how they're going to take it, then you're not really journaling. So really, I need my best friend to come grab them all and burn them and get rid of them and let them go. but they have helped me get clarity at different points in my life. I also believe what we focus on expands. When we are focused on how many men have the big jobs and we don't, when we're focused on what's wrong in our lives, when we're focused on the traffic on the way to work, when we're focused on all the projects that we have to do and no time to do them, that's what we're going to see more of. When we focus on gratitude and what we're about and what is working in our lives, it changes your perspective. You can't have judgment and be grateful at the same time. You can't move your life forward in the best way if your focus is on all the things that are wrong. When you focus on you and what you're about and quit talking about all the other things that aren't working, then your life changes because you're expanding your life. Stephen Covey is still one of my favorite authors that wrote The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. He talked about a circle of influence. So if you take a sheet of paper and you write down all the things you're mad about, worried about, scared about, and then you put a little circle in the middle, and you put in that little circle what you control, most of that stuff is out of your control. If you focus on what you have control over, that circle expands because you're spending your energy on things that you can change and not on things that are outside of your control. Does that make some sense? So I want to talk about an intention. An intention is different than a goal. An intention is, how do I want to feel, do, or be through this day? How do I want to show up? So we don't have a choice about what happens to us. We have a choice about how we respond. That's all we got. And y'all, how we show up. If you walk into your office and you are crazy, filled with anxiety, everybody knows it and you don't have to open your mouth. Don't you know it when somebody else is like that? And that's what you get back from people. So what you want is, how do I walk in with more kindness and compassion? How do I walk in and feel peaceful? How do I walk in and feel accomplished or happy or whatever that is for you? But I believe all of us would benefit from having our intention. You're more likely to get there if you have one than if you don't. So an intention is timeless. There is no attachment to an end point. It is in the present tense. I have an intention when I speak. And so this is really important, because if my intention was that all of you get something out of this and all of you have a great time in this meeting, I don't control that. So I only control my 50%. I don't control what you get from this, or whether you like me or don't like me or think this was the biggest waste of your time. I don't control that. So my intention is to show up fully and to be my best physically, mentally, and spiritually, and to give you real information that I believe matters. That's all my part is. So when you think about your intention, it's not about the effect I'm going to be nice so my boss likes me better. I'm going to do this so that happens. You don't control that. So my intention is the same. I think we covered that. So an intention is, I am peaceful, I am compassionate, I feel content, I have clarity and focus, I feel vibrant and healthy in my body. So I would ask you to think about what your intention might be as you walk into your day every day. For years, mine was the same. I worked in an office, and on the way to work, I would say, I want to show up, speak up, and be present. Now, my father told me early on, because I don't think he believed much in my gifts and talents, but he said, show up early, stay late, and smile, and do what they say. That was pretty much my mantra for how to stay in a job. But I didn't show up for friends that were hurting. When somebody died, I didn't go to the house because I didn't think I was close enough to show up for that. I didn't know when it was okay to show up. And so I tended to step back. I don't want to be that person anymore. And I don't speak up. I don't like to have difficult conversations. I say I'm fine when I'm not. I've been sweeping stuff under my rug for many, many years. But what I have learned through doing the work that I'm doing now, it is through difficult conversations that we create more intimacy and connection in our lives. When we say, you hurt my feelings, I just got to tell you. Or that conversation didn't go the way I wanted it to, I want to apologize. It's just how we show up and speak up. All right, power of priority. Time management is basically organizing the things you want to do in a way that helps you get them done. So what would you do if you had an extra hour in your day? Anybody. Who would leave the office and go shopping? Who would go spend time with their kids? Well, I was speaking to a group of lawyers and women lawyers and judges in New Orleans. They were all from Mississippi. And the event planner said, these women are brilliant and they don't mess around. And you don't need to try to be funny or cute. They want you to get to the point, give them a lot of content. You need to be very serious. They'll walk out if you're not good. So I was petrified. And so I walk in at 8:30 that morning and I say, what would you do if I gave you another hour? And this prominent judge in the back of the room said, I would shave my legs. I thought, I'm good. We're going to get along just fine. There are only two ways to create time. Eliminate or simplify. Eliminate is, what can I not do anymore? And maybe it's clean your house or cut your grass. What can I get somebody else to do that would bring me more peace? The other word that I want you to consider giving up is should. I should be a better mother. I should cook dinner 5 nights a week. I should be better at work. I should show up earlier. I should get up earlier so I can do this damn quiet time that Darienne told me I needed. So we live with a lot of shoulds. But you're okay just the way you are. You're doing the best you can. Your kids love pizza. Order more pizza. Simplify is, how can I do what I do in a more efficient way, right? Most of us don't have a lot of influence in what we cannot do anymore. But what can I do in a little bit better way? I think we all want the same things. We want to meet or exceed our expectations in our job. We want to feel that we're using our unique abilities. We want to meet our financial needs. We want to build healthy relationships, and we want to feel our best. You know, one of the things that's so clear to me now that wasn't in my 40s is that our health is our most important priority, period. Our health. Putting you on your list and taking care of your health, because you can't be your best. You can't find joy and peace and happiness and all this stuff and fulfillment and accomplishment if you don't feel good, and if you're not sleeping, and if you're not exercising or eating right. Like, that is the base that allows you to give back. Somewhere we've been taught that we have to take care of everybody else first. We have to feed everybody before we get to eat. I just think that's not quite the way that God intended it, because I can't give from an empty cup. And unless I am full, I'm not my best with my daughter or my husband or my family or all the people that I want to be there for. So I believe in setting intentions. I believe in goals and strategies. I do that annually, and I look at them every month. What are my priorities this month that move me to that goal? So I'm really clear about it all year long. What is my intention for the whole year? What kind of money do I want to make? What kind of new programs do I want to produce? How do I want to do this year differently or better? And then I have real clear goals for those. I also do a weekly review. So I do my to-do list weekly now and not every day. Every day tends to be just a to-do list. Weekly, I'm able to say, what are my priorities, and then what are those activities? What is that busy work that I need to get done and off my plate? I also am a big believer in a keystone habit. So if I want to lose 20 pounds, which is what I always want to do, I could tell you all the things that I'm going to do differently to get there, right? I'm going to cut out sugar. I'm going to walk 5 days a week. I'm never going to drink again. I'm never going to do this again. Well, I'm not going to do all of that. But what is one thing I could do differently that would be a keystone habit? That if I do that, it would have the greatest impact. And so right now, my keystone habit in my health is to drink a lot of water. Just keep hydrating and moving that's important. And so I want to drink water, and I do exercise and I do other things, but if I get that keystone habit down every day, and then in a few months, my keystone habit will change because the water will then be a habit. That makes sense to y'all? 2 most important words are no and not now. As women, we do not know how to say no. We cringe and say, yeah, I'll be on that committee. Yeah, I can show up Saturday and help, whatever. Shonda Rhimes, y'all know who that is? Grey's Anatomy and all that. She wrote a book called The Year of Yes. She was going to jump into her life and just say yes. If her kids wanted to play, she was going to have time for it. If somebody asked her to speak at a big event and it terrified her, she was just going to say yes. But she said she also learned in that year the power of no. Because when we say no, we apologize. Oh, I would love to, but my mother's been sick. I don't know if my husband's even in town. I've just got so much going. We apologize because we don't want to offend and we don't want anybody to not like us. So there is power in saying, you know what, I thank you for asking me, but I'm not able to help this year. I have a little reminder that I do for myself, because if somebody asks me to speak, I'll say, let me call you right back. Because my tendency is to say yes. But I want to look at my calendar, take a deep breath and say, is this the right thing to put on my calendar? Because if I'm speaking 3 or 4 days in a row, I'm not going to be good on the 4th day. I won't bring my best self to that speaking engagement, and I would rather turn it down or ask if we could postpone than do an okay job. So I want to give myself a moment to reflect before I say yes or no. Not now is, how many times are you interrupted in a day? Isn't that the biggest waster of all of our time? And we do it, and it is done to us. And it is that knock at the door that says, can I just have a minute? So let me tell you what happens. That minute takes you 13 minutes to get back to what you were doing before the interruption every time. If you get interrupted 10 times and there's 15 minutes after that maybe you'll go to the bathroom or go get water or check your Facebook or do something before you get back to where you were before the interruption. And my mind is not on what you want. My mind is on that email I was writing that I want to finish. So I'm not present for you. I think it is kinder, if it's possible, if this isn't urgent, can I come find you in about 30 minutes? Let me finish what I'm doing right here and I can really focus on what you need from me. Isn't that kinder than just saying, yeah, of course. Come on in. Of course you can interrupt me. Because we're not getting our work done. I believe in the importance of a planning system. I don't care what it is. I don't care if it's online, if it's in a book. It's more about the habit than the gadget. I use Outlook and I use tasks in Outlook and I love it. And it shows up on my page right here and it shows me all the things I need to do today. If I don't get something done, it moves to the next day and it's red. It says you didn't do me. Do me now. I can move things up and down the week. If I know I have a crazy Tuesday, then I move everything to Wednesday so I give myself space. I don't start reading emails until I have looked at my calendar and my task list, because if I start reading email, I am making your priority bigger than my priority. Because I can go down the rabbit hole just like you can and start reading emails at 8:30 and look up and it's 10:15. And I don't even know what my day's about. I've just been getting you everything you needed from me. So I at least want to walk in with a sense. You got 4 appointments. You got several things you need to get finished today. Okay, now who needs you? How do I plug all this together? So I want to have my clarity and my focus before I start moving into what everybody else wants from me. MIT is, what is your most important thing? I want you to start every day with your MIT. You can have 2 or 3, but you can't have more than that. What is my most important thing today? And if my rule of thumb is if something on your to-do list will take 2 minutes or less, just do it. Just do it right then and get it off your plate. If it will take more than an hour, I want you to make an appointment on your calendar with yourself and say from 10 to 11, I'm writing that speech. from 10 to 11, I'm getting that project finished. Because if you think about the 80-20 rule, y'all remember 20% of people in organization do 80% of the work. In your closet right now, there are 20% of the clothes you wear and 80% you either used to or hope to. So it affects every area of your life, but there is something on your list that would make 80% difference to your business. And yet we start off and do all of the things that are 20% because they're easier and we can check them off, and then our list isn't as long. But what doesn't get done is that big thing that then moves to the next day and the next day and the next day, and that's what keeps us up at night. So if you would make an appointment with yourself for 60 minutes or 90 minutes, 90 minutes is 20% of your day, and you did your 80% project, you would leave every day with a sense of grace and ease. How am I doing? Do I need to be moving into?
We do want to just leave a few minutes for Q&A. So.
Yeah, so I'm close. Research has shown that most of us are most productive in the first 2 hours. Not everybody. My best friend gets her second wind about 8:30 or 9 at night, and I will not room with her because I don't have that same problem. But at 6:30 in the morning, I could work for an hour and probably get half of my day done, because that's when I'm creative, that's when my energy is the highest. So knowing that about yourself is very important. And if you think about companies, we tend to have staff meetings from 8 to 10. At our highest creative space, we're sitting in a meeting writing down what everybody's doing this week. It's not the best use of our time. And we tend to get coffee and go chat and then, look at our list and look at all of our emails, and then we look up and it's 11 o'clock. Our most creative time is gone, and we say, we might as well just go to lunch. There's nothing else when we get done today. So if you could use your first 2 hours more productively, I know several companies that I work with now have a quiet hour. So if they come in at 8, nobody has any meetings, nobody goes to visit anybody. 8 to 9 is get your stuff together. And they said it has transformed their office, that everybody knows it and everybody appreciates some space. So you also have a handout that is your big rocks. I am a huge believer, and I hope you will take that with you and look at it, is your health, your physical, your mental, and your spiritual are your big rocks. And if you don't put those on your calendar, you won't get them done. They don't happen. If you don't put that exercise class in your calendar at 4:30, you won't go. If you don't put lunch with your mother, you'll put it off. So every Sunday afternoon, I want you to take your calendar and say, what big rocks do I need to put into my life this week? Because y'all, I don't want to be at my funeral and have them say, boy, her inbox looked good. Isn't that great? And she was successful at work. She did some good work. I want to be generous, and I want to be remembered as a good person. I want to have friends and people that care about me, and I showed up for them. But if I don't put them on my list, then I'm just doing my list. So the last part of this is the power of truth. I'm getting near the end. I worked at the state of Louisiana, and I was the tourism director. It was not a good fit. It was probably the worst time in my professional career. My bosses didn't get me. I didn't get them. They micromanaged. They yelled some. It was not a comfortable place to be. And I was scared to death every day of what was going to happen. I had moved my daughter to Baton Rouge. I was single at the time, and I needed that job probably more than I needed the job with Wayne Grant. And I remember a friend of mine wrote on a cocktail napkin, that tells you where we were, speak your truth even if your voice trembles. I kept that in my wallet for like 10 years. Speak your truth even if your voice trembles. So learn to speak up in this job, even when it's hard. I didn't ever do that. I just quit. I love the idea. I walked into my boss and I said, I'm going to resign. I have forgotten what I'm good at. And that's not your fault, but I have to go home and figure out what I do well, because I've lost it in this place. And so I had another risk-taking job because I had nowhere to go. But you know what I believe about that? It pushed me to start Darienne Inc. If that job had been comfortable, I would have stayed in state government. The benefits are good, the health insurance, the retirement plans, all that stuff. I'd have hung in there for as long as I could. But that difficult situation made me pull it together and say, what else could I do? And at that point, working at Chico's was not out of the realm of my possibility. But I said, what could I do? What do I really have that I can offer other people? And that's where my business was started. So you can either be the woman on the left or the woman on the right. Where do y'all land? Depends on the day. So I hope that you've gotten some tips out of today. A little bit of something. Did you get something out of this? So let me tell you what's going to happen. You're going to go home and you're going to forget everything I said. That's really pitiful. But that's what's going to happen because you're going to have 75 emails in your inbox and you have a meeting this afternoon and your kids need something from school. And so this stuff can go by the wayside. So I just want to 2 minutes tell you a program that I offer called Live from the Inside Out. And it is how to do the work on yourself that I talked about briefly today. It is a virtual program. You do it at your own pace when you want to, but you are supported by me throughout it. You have 4 modules to watch and worksheets to go through that help you get to your best life and work. You get 1 private coaching call with me that is, may I say, priceless. You're going to create a vision for your life and your work. You're going to develop a quiet routine that focuses you each day. You're going to learn to speak your truth. You're going to develop a guiding intention, tools to prioritize, and communication techniques to speak up when you need to. This program, the investment, it's worth about $500, but I sell it for $295. And the bonus is that you get 2 group coaching calls with me. Every month I do a group call with anybody that's in the program to help you work through wherever you are in the program and what you might need support on. And I'd love for you to think about that. Donna O'Daniel is a person that went through it, and she said this program marked a turning point for me. I was able to identify what was really important, set goals to find a happier balance in my life. I highly recommend Darienne and especially the program. So I am giving away a free coaching session to anybody that turns that card in. So I hope you will turn your cards in. I hope this program has been meaningful for you in some way, other than that I was in the Junior Miss pageant and I lied to get a job. So can I answer any questions?
Yeah, any questions specifically?
Nothing.
Great.
What did you get out of it? Who's going to leave with one thing they're going to do different? What you going to do?
We're going to tell our office about that 1 hour fight. We are going to do that.
That's an organizational game changer.
I really like the intention piece. I'm a real anxious, we all are busy-minded. So I have been trying to learn how to meditate, which is not easy for me. And but setting an intention, but actually like setting it and carrying it through instead of just setting it.
Well, and then at the end of the day, you say, what was my intention? How did I do?
Yeah.
Some days are better than others. Some days I didn't get there, but some days I went, I did that.
I agree with you on the journaling. You can even buy the small ones that have 3 to 5 years, and you can just put a small amount, and you can go back and see what you did a year ago today, 2 years ago, whether it's your children you did, or you did something in your work that changed your life, and it's great to be reminded.
Yeah, it really is. It's very powerful. Well, thank y'all so much. I really loved being here.